Have you ever tried being funny in a speech, but all you got was awkward silence? I hear you because I've been there many times. If you're like me, you love a good laugh. But trying to create one on stage, that's a whole different story. We've all heard this saying, it is much easier to make people cry than to make them laugh. It's so true. But with some simple tips, games, and practice at the end, the impossible can be reversed. Hi there, this is Marie-Josée from Powerful Communication. Today we're talking about how we can implement humor in your speech naturally. Of course, without turning into a stand-up comedian or falling flat on your face. I'll share some tips, real-life experiences, and a fun exercise at the end to help you start practicing. So, stick around. First, let's start by saying why it is so important to add some humor in your speeches. Well, I think it's a little bit obvious because it breaks the tension, it keeps your audience interested, and it shows that you're human. Plus, it makes you more relatable and likable, even if your topic is serious. Victor Borge, the famous pianist and humorist, once said, "Laughter is the shortest distance between two people." And in public speaking, that connection is everything. So now that we know why humor is so important, let's look at how we can actually use it in our speeches. Let's start with the easiest one, real-life stories. Those stories can be your own stories or a story from somebody you liked or an event that you've witnessed and you found some humor in it. Because you see, some of the funniest moments can be found in real life situations. Like a time when I gave many years ago, I gave my first speech. I was nervous, but I wanted to impress people. I was dressed for the occasion. I thought prepared. I kind of took myself a little too seriously for my own good. Once I started speaking, looking confident while inside I was melting, one lady in the audience just stood up while I was speaking. I was looking at her and said, "What are you doing?" And she just grabbed behind my collar my dry cleaning ticket.
Huh?
Everybody at that time started laughing. And it made me feel a little bit stupid, but it did give me a good dose of humility. And the lesson I got from that is I don't need to be anybody else but myself. I can just be great at the moment that I'm speaking. Number 2 is use the rule of 3. So if storytelling isn't your cup of tea, use the rule of 3. Here's an example. Public speaking takes preparation, confidence, and the ability to pretend that your knees aren't shaking like maracas. This little surprise at the end, that's the goal. Tip number 3 is try and exaggerate a little bit. Let's turn up the volume a bit with a little bit of exaggeration. Instead of saying, "I was so nervous," try, "I was sweating so much that I thought I was gonna have to swim back home." It may be funny, or it may be not, but sometimes you realize that you say something stupid, and that's the funny part. Number 4 is to play with contrast. Now, here's a really fun one, especially if you're a fan of irony. Use contrast. I was calm, collected, and completely panicking inside. This works beautifully when you're describing awkward and ironic moments. Point number 5. It's a very important one. Don't force the funny. In fact, this tip might be the most important of all. Be funny, but don't overdo it. Humor should flow naturally. Don't turn your speech into a performance. And sometimes, just being yourself is what the audience expects of you. Chances are they're not there because they knew you were going to make them laugh. They're in the audience because they want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear your message. I remember many years ago, I went to a speech contest. I was not participating. I was just one of the audience members. And the speakers were doing a very good job, but one speaker in particular was just shooting jokes from one side to another without even having any relations to the message. When we listened to his speech, we had no idea where the speaker was taking us. What was his message? What was he trying to tell us? I don't think that he was telling us anything. He was just making people laugh. And it was sort of kind of funny because he was entertaining. However, I thought it was a little bit unprofessional. As a matter of fact, it was a little bit offensive for the other people who had worked so hard on their speech. As a result, they didn't get all the attention they needed to receive. So now that you've got some ideas in your toolbox, let's practice. Here's what you can do. Step 1. Pick a serious topic. For example, a moment that you had a failure in your life, or a time where you wanted to change your life and be healthier. It could be when something, especially if you were trying to eat better food and all of a sudden you added the wrong ingredients and the smoothie you were trying to make tasted awful and made you gag. Or if you were trying to lead a team of coworkers and you had no idea how to do this and you kept saying the wrong thing, for example. Try and see the humor in the situation that you've encountered and use that to teach a lesson to your audience. For example, I remember a few years ago, I invited a group of friends to come to my house. You see, I love cooking and my friends know that. And I wanted to cook for them delicious pizzas. I like to try new things, so I was trying new recipes, new toppings for those pizzas. I had planned to make many types of pizzas, which means I was overworked. I was overwhelmed with all the things I needed to do, and in the process I didn't realize that I mixed the salt for the sugar. So my pizza crust tasted sweet. When my friends started eating the pizzas, they all said, "Oh, this sounds more like a dessert pizza than a regular pizza." We all laughed because my friends are good sports, and I'm very lucky to have such great friends. But the lesson I got here is always pay attention. Don't overdo it. Even if you want to please somebody, make a plan. Make sure that you can do it all. If you can't, just cut a few things out of your plan. But we ended up having a great time anyway. But before you go full-on comedy mode, here are a few things that you need to remember. Don't copy jokes from the internet. Make sure that the jokes that you use are complementary to your message. They are related to the topic because there is something that you want to teach your audience. If it does not achieve this purpose, don't use them. Also, I think it goes without saying, but don't ever laugh at people. Don't put people down for either their religion, their culture, political reasons, for example, because we all have different opinions and it's okay. Again, don't overdo it, because if you keep shooting jokes without any reason, your audience might think that you lack self-confidence. So balance is the key here. So remember, humor is like a spice. A little goes a long way. Finally, humor is not just about you being the funniest in the group. It's about connection. It's about sharing something with your audience to make them feel better and to allow your audience to have a good time with you. I'm still learning too, because as I have said in other videos, humor is not my strong point. So the more I use laughter, the more I realize that it opens doors that logic can't. That's it for today, but the conversation doesn't end here. Share your funny stories in the comments below. I guarantee you I will read them all. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you want to learn how you can overcome different types of fears, there's a list of 10 links down below, other videos that you can click here and here for more interesting public speaking tips. Until next time, keep learning, keep speaking, and don't forget to laugh at yourself, if only a little. Goodbye.